Christmas, just like the ones where I get my oranges.
You know, out of context, like our listeners will hear because I hit record as soon as I said Christmas. That doesn't make any sense.
You son of a bitch, you got me again.
Absolutely. Welcome, one and all, to another beautiful edition of Ludic Loungecast, number 11, mind you.
Oh, I think we're farther than that.
Yeah, are we though?
I
don't
mean,
think we're like of actual Loungecast, like of the you and I. Well,
okay.
The two that just you and I, or you and Brandon. I think that's at 11. We're at 11 now.
No, we're in the double digits. This is episode 10. No, this is episode 10.
No, 10 is the one I just edited.
Oh yeah, that's right.
God, you threw me off, man.
Yeah, well, I threw myself off. That's just how it works. I fuck myself up, and then I fuck up everybody else, and then we're all fucked up together. It's a nice little fuck up circle.
Which is what we call our loyal fans, just our fuck up circle.
Do we want to call them that though, without their permission?
No, not at all. Not at all. I like Ludiacs a lot better.
Ooh, that's the first time hearing of it. I like it.
Yeah, I was just one day I was just kind of tinkering. It's one of those shower thoughts, you know.
Aren't they the best?
They are the best, but sometimes your shower thoughts also go to like, shit, where's my birth certificate? Random things like that. John, do you know where your birth certificate is?
Yeah, in a vault.
Like a literal vault?
Well, it's a vault that may or not be in a house, but I won't tell you where that house is. Like the equivalent of what that would be for like a modern suburban home.
So it's not like a Fallout vault. Like you're not I need my birth certificate, so I got to enter this vault.
Liam Neeson, you're my dad. I got to find you in this vault in my house.
That would be an awful plot for a movie, by the way, or a video game at that matter.
Well, it was a video game. So.
Well, yeah, Fallout 3, but you weren't going to find a birth certificate of yourself.
Were you, though? Were you not, though?
No,
I mean,
you weren't.
In the grand scheme of things, maybe by searching for your father, you're looking for some way to certify that you were born of his loins.
I think you're giving Fallout way too much credit for existential thinking.
I mean, yes, absolutely. Based on how Fallout 4 turned out, hell yes.
Yeah, I mean, I loved a lot of that game. Don't get me wrong.
Yes, I agree.
I loved like the Blade Runner theme running along through it. That was awesome. Mm-hmm. Which is, especially the part where you go into Boston to the Red Sox's stadium there, which has an iconic name that I can't remember.
Fucking Fenway Park.
Yeah, Fenway Park.
Fenway Park over there where the fucking Sox play.
Oh, yeah, I need my khakis.
It's khakis.
That's as far as my Boston accent goes, is khakis.
That's about all I got, too. I need to watch The Departed again, I suppose.
Yeah, we just got to hear Mark Wahlberg curse over and over again, like every other second.
Well, that's just your inner monologue all the time because you love Mark Wahlberg so much.
It is, and is my actual verbal dialogue that I have in public, too. It's just cursing every other second.
Speaking of public, I am John Soares, one of your co-hosts.
Oh, that's right. We should probably introduce ourselves at this point.
The dulcet tones you just heard is the man, the myth, the legend, Antonicus Gluteus Maximus.
By the way, I listened to the intro for our Ludic Roundtable on My Hero Academia just for kicks and giggles because I wanted to hear the intro. And what you said, when you first brought in the Gluteus Maximus into it as All Might, that was epic, man. I did not give you enough credit for that.
It was more everybody needed to recover from the fact that I blew out their eardrums.
Oh God! So
which. For those people at home, I'm so very, very sorry. I imagine that happened. I hope Anthony did enough tinkering to get me down to some kind of manageable level, but even then, it's 2+ ultra.
Yeah, even then, man. Like the one person listening at home that heard your voice, they're deaf now permanently, so we won't even have that one subscriber from this.
Yeah, she just gives me side eye, and whenever I do the voices.
That's fair. My wife hates my voices now. She hates my actual voice now, too.
Oh, don't even say that. I will ask her to come into the room and confirm this.
She just screamed, "I can hear you!" from across the house.
I was right. She's going to smack you silly.
Oh, yeah. I think I hear her coming. Oh, boy. God. Jeez. Jeez. Save us, John.
I'm here to save you. Come with me if you want to leave. I need to be more monotone to be Terminator, but It's much more exciting if I'm all over the place.
Yeah. Just give me Arnold Schwarzenegger Total Recall on the surface of Mars, air getting sucked out. Just give that for me for like 30 seconds. Do you eat pussy like that?
Not even like 10 minutes in, and we are like halfway to the fucking Antarctic.
I mean, that's why I don't really plan on many things when I jump into here, unless it's super important. It's because it's just this generic, random banter that we have is beautiful.
Yes. It's 3 years of friendship and bad impressions and good impressions, mostly good impressions.
And really good impressions, actually.
Well, that's right, citizens.
And speaking of impressions, John, I hear you finished Ghost of Tsushima. Why don't you give us your impression overall?
Oh my goodness. We're getting into things. We're doing things. Yes, I did. Transitions. I'm Carl Sagan, and this is a transition.
You know,
halfway to Kermit the Frog.
Hey-ho, Kermit the Frog here.
Hey-ho. Dueling Kermit. Hi-ho.
Hi-ho.
Hi-ho, Kermit the Frog here.
I'm trying to remember the song that he sings.
Why are there so many songs about rainbows? And what's on the other side?
Why is my frog penis inside of a pig?
Oh boy, that got awkward.
That's why we had to give it the pause. I'm not even going to edit that pause. It's going to just straight be
everyone at home. Everyone at home is going to have to live with that. We're going to have to think about a pig fucking a frog.
Yeah, and my Kermit all of a sudden turned to Rowan Atkinson's Mr. Bean for some reason towards the end of my impression. I don't know how.
Is that what Mr. Bean sounds like? I always thought he was just like this.
Hello. Just, well, you know, when he actually speaks, it's something along the lines of, hello. So it kind of has a little Yoda to it.
That's like borderline British pedophilia.
Oh. Don't put that evil on Rowan Atkinson, man. Sir Rowan Atkinson, mind you. Pretty sure he's been knighted. Knighted?
Fair enough.
Not knighted?
Knighted. It's knighted. I'm pretty sure it's knighted. Yeah, knighted.
I like not, though. It just sounds way better. I was not. No, that doesn't work.
I was knotted upon the third day of the fourth night.
That just sounds like a Cleveland steamer going on, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, boy. Who's doing it? The Queen?
I mean... She's the ruler of the country, man.
Yeah, it's all pink in the dark. Is that appropriate? I don't know. We need to transition back into something useful.
I had a good transition.
And then I fucked it up.
And then we just fucked it up at that point. We had dueling Kermits. I did a shitty Mr. Bean impression, and here we are.
We got back on the plane though, and we went skydiving for a bit. Yeah, we went from one plane to another plane. That's what it is. We just skydive.
Yeah. Plane down to a plane. Now, John, how was the planes of Ghost of Tsushima on the island of Tsushima?
Yes, the island of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima, from what I understand now, is the last PS4 exclusive. It is the last man standing in this console generation. Ultimately, now I beat the game the morning that we're doing this recording, and overall, from a game, like I think I can split it into a gameplay experience and a story / emotional experience. From a gameplay standpoint, I appreciate that it is, you can just go anywhere you want. You don't necessarily have to have something tracked. You can just explore.
So you can go where you want to. You can leave your foes behind.
But if foes don't slash, and if they don't slash, well, they're no
foes of mine, and they can slash and die.
What is that? Is that fucking Dexy's Midnight Runners?
No.
Fuck.
That one was Come On Eileen, which is also a specific adult film that we won't talk about.
I didn't need to know that existed, but thank you. I mean,
it probably did. I don't know that 100%, but it probably did.
I mean, there's probably like 20 different versions of them.
And the band you were searching for Safety Dance is Men Without Hats.
Well, they should get some hats.
They should get some hats of anything.
No.
I
Maybe
mean,
they
if they're
would.
talking about a safety dance, number one OSHA requirement for a safety workplace, especially like a construction site,
It's
is
a hard
hard
hat.
hats. Yeah,
Yeah. So
exactly.
they should be men with hard hats.
Shouldn't hard hats also be like a street slang term for a condom? Think
I
about it.
mean, how
Think
the
about
fuck
it.
did we get here?
Well, think
Because you
about it.
ham-fisted shit again. Oh God. Oh, you some bitch, you beautiful some bitch. Tsushima. Tsushima.
That sushi ma.
Oh, Jesus.
No, but I
Mhm.
understand your confusion.
I gave you that one. I have to only kick myself for that. Back on the plane
Yes.
that we just, skydived back into.
Yes.
The loop around it. I appreciate that you can essentially just kind of wander. I mean, you have to play the main story to an extent to kind of get the full breadth of the island if you want to be able to like walk from like point to point or whatever, like a Kurosawa film if you want to be just a wandering Yojimbo.
Yeah.
Which it lives up to that kind of reputation of what Kurosawa did in some of his samurai films, what Usagi Yojimbo, the comic that is another part of the inspiration for this game, does with its wandering adventures of Miyamoto Usagi. So I appreciate that. I appreciate some of the side quests, but I do feel like for the most part, some of the side missions are kind of just your standard open world fare, where it's just like you come across a place, they tell you a quick synopsis of what the hell just happened to them. You go to another place, do some things which usually involve murder.
Yeah.
And then you go back, collect a reward. I think that kind of dovetails it up to
Woo!
oh Jesus Christ.
Oh, dovetail. Sorry.
Dovetails, not DuckTales.
Sorry. Okay. Woo!
Woo. It moves us into the story perspective, because I think like the heart of that game, I think, lies in the side quests and a couple of the characters that you happen upon. I mentioned, I believe last week, the sole survivor of a clan, Adachi, Masako Adachi. She's the matriarch of that family, whose entire family is butchered.
Yeah.
During the Mongol invasion for multiple. You come to find out it's a lot more complicated and a lot more tinged with jealousy. But I won't go into full spoilers here, because I will leave. Anthony still hasn't played the game, and he's waiting for the eventual PS5 remaster, which is probably going to happen.
It's gotta happen, man.
It's gotta happen, and especially considering this is a PS4 exclusive and will likely become a PS5 exclusive. So, I mean, with Masako's story, I felt was a little bit along the same lines as Jin, our protagonist, but she ends up in a little bit of a different place, and ultimately it kind of leaves it a little open-ended, just because at least by the time I finished that quest line, I still had some main story stuff to do. So I don't know if there's any difference in beating the main story and then jumping back to do the side missions. But she's one of the characters where I feel like the story, the heart of the story and what Jin's going through is reflected through best. Another one is a fighting monk named Norio, who was a Mongol captive, had to deal with a significant amount of torture, and I don't know if he came out intact at the end of it.
Yeah.
And that's I think that it's one of the things that I enjoyed coming at the end of it now, and also frustrated me, is that it does deal with the blurred lines of what it means to be honorable and what does it mean to enact your duty, and how flexible and rigid should you be, and how much do you have to be. Ultimately, it does feel a little bit predictable. I think if you've played similar games, big revenge war epics that kind of have this like ninja Batman feel to them, you kind of know where the final conflict is going to go, and it's not necessarily involving the Mongols. It's something a little bit more Japanese centric, and I think I might have to leave it at that, because otherwise I'm just getting into more spoilers.
Yeah.
And it does do the whole you have choice thing, so you can choose to do certain things and they will have an impact on how you're perceived, but it's not as, I guess, tiered as say a Mass Effect would be, or Dragon Age would be, or similar games. It is very much I don't know if Sucker Punch would say it's a binary system, but it feels a little bit binary, where it is, all good and all evil. It's a little. I will admit it is muddier than that, but ultimately, the ending I chose, I'm not 100% sure was the best path. And looking at the two options I had, I'm not sure I liked either of them particularly well.
Now, with that being said, is it something that you would go back and play again for the alternate ending, or is it something you're like, well, I don't want to drop another 50 hours into this because it's fine the way it is?
It's definitely longer than 50 hours. I'll say that much. If you are doing dedicated work on doing side quests and exploration stuff while doing the main story, it will it will take some time. But to answer your question, probably not.
Yeah, that's kind of how I got the feeling of. I feel like it's just one epic, and when you're done, you kind of just put it to the side and go, okay, that was fun.
I mean, it's more like it's the epic you've earned for yourself, and if you want to start that over again, that's your choice. Because there is, at this time, like Jedi Fallen Order, which is a comparable game in some respects, there was no New Game Plus. I should say there is no New Game Plus for Ghost of Tsushima, like there was no New Game Plus for Jedi Fallen Order at the onset of the game's release. Will that change? Who knows? That's kind of how these types of games work nowadays, where it's just like we got to get the game out, and added stuff like New Game Plus, we'll have to patch it in later if we do at all.
Yeah,
because that's a significant lift.
I was saying, to be quite frank, not a lot of people are hankering for that. I mean, you had it with Witcher 3, but outside of like Witcher 3, I feel like there's not really a hankering of, give me New Game Plus. I feel like it's just one of those small community things like, oh, this would be nice.
And I mentioned it when we talked about Witcher 3 very early on in this podcast, to bring it back
very
around.
Early on. Jesus. Yeah.
Plug. Go back and listen to some episodes. Every single one is somebody's first.
Excelsior.
Excelsior, true believers. I'm Stan Lee, and I'm talking from beyond the grave.
Oh, it's so funny how your Stan Lee just so happens to sound like your Peter Falk.
Sure, I don't know what you're talking about. There's two different people. This is Peter Falk, and this is Stan Lee. Excelsior, true believers.
Okay, I mean, there's a little bit of a difference. But one thing I wanted to touch on, John, and this is kind of unplanned, and it had me thinking while you were talking of Ghost of Tsushima, and this is not a setup for a pun or a joke, I promise. So when you were talking about it and you were comparing it to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, what do you think? So you and I, God, this is years and years ago, we started a novel, which was the premise of it. Yeah, I can see you're starting to remember. The premise of it was a standalone Jedi, kind of like an Akimbo Samurai-esque. Yojimbo, excuse me.
Yeah.
My Japanese isn't as good as it used to be.
Gotta go back to the war.
Yeah. After the war.
Yeah,
I don't know why that made me laugh so much.
Because I just know how to tickle the funny bone. That's just how it is.
Oh God, it was great.
I know what you're talking. I remember. I'm still kind of in the throes of trying to figure that whole story out. It's just like this so removed from the lore of Star Wars as we know it, that it's just more about a philosophical approach to the Jedi, getting to understand them through an individual sense.
Yeah.
And to continue thought, you're going.
Yeah, so to continue my thought, does playing Ghost of Tsushima, does it kind of like stroke a little bit of that fire of that? You know what I mean? Do you think like a Jedi with how you just played this game, a Jedi in the same kind of a setting with, instead of, Mongolians, maybe it's just mob bosses, like you're taking on the Syndicate or, one of the the Hutts or something like that.
I think that they certainly tried to do that with that Old Republic MMO. Which I don't know if that I believe that's still active, but
yeah,
I don't think it's a completely different type of game than what Fallen Order is, than what Ghost of Tsushima is. Would I want a Star Wars game like Ghost of Tsushima? Yes, in the sense that I would like it to be something bigger than what we got in Fallen Order. Not to, shit on Fallen Order. I really like Fallen Order. I think honestly it has some of the better character arcs in Star Wars as a whole. The people actually go from point A to a point B in Fallen Order. There's really, really strong growth. But I think one of the biggest issues I have with Fallen Order is that it has the illusion of an open world, and that those levels are really, really big. Like Kashyyyk is massive.
Huge. Yeah.
It's not Bogano. It's the one of the first planets you end up going to, and you end up circling back to a lot because there's like 2 big dungeons that you go back as you get more powers. But like, I would have liked to have that more of a wandering adventures type thing than a big epic, or epic in the sense that in Fallen Order the whole goal is we need to get enough tools to restart the Jedi again.
Right.
With Tsushima, it is we are trying to stop an invasion that will literally destroy our people if we let it.
Yeah. But just from all the gameplay that I've seen, like from the trailers, just general gameplay, and then from the way you described it, both on air and off air, to me, it's kind of stroking a little bit more of that fire, of that bigger idea that we had, right? Because I feel like there's something there.
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, now that I've gotten through the game, and granted, this is less than 24 hours reflection.
Sure, right.
It is dealing, and this is also on top of the fact that a lot of George Lucas's references to Star Wars involved Kurosawa and samurai films.
Exactly. Like
on top of Flash Gordon,
it was Flash Gordon. It was, what is it? Not Lost Kingdom, but it was something Kingdom. God,
I know. The Kurosawa film that is almost 1-to-1 with Star Wars is The Hidden Fortress.
Yes, Hidden Fortress. That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, so that's the one that is the bare concept of the original Star Wars is almost 1-to-1 in some ways with The Hidden Fortress. There's a princess who's looking for an older general, and there's 2 bickering idiots who you can equate to R2-D2 and C-3PO. The other stuff, I think, like Han and all that other stuff is kind of just mixed in from his various influences. But I think a lot of and that's where I think a lot of your comparisons with Tsushima is coming from, is just the inherent Japaneseness, I guess.
Okay.
Or Japanese sensibilities that Star Wars kind of has inherently baked in just because of its influences. And I think if you made this a Star Wars story, it would be very compelling to the whole argument of this Skywalker saga, which is the Jedi are inherently rigid, and that's a problem.
Yeah, and that was the other thing too, because we were talking about the grayness, or like, can you still be honorable in Tsushima, and what that can look like, and what could still be considered honorable if you're doing this or if you're doing that. Again, reminds me of the Jedi Order, and it reminds me of, again, how inflexible they are in some cases, and in other cases, for their own convenience, they're going to bend the rules, break the rules even, you could make the argument for.
Yeah, and and to give a little bit more credence to your argument, that is something that does happen at the end of this game, where it is a question of how rigid you are within that system, and how much you adhere to it, and how much you are demolishing something that needs to be a structure.
Right.
And one of the criticisms on the game is that it essentially was lionizing right-wing authoritarianism, because that's what I think at least that reviewer was equating the samurai to. In a way, yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a ruling class of warriors who say, we are the protectors. We're going to be the ones that rule and dictate how this society is run. And I get it, but and I see the point, but I also feel like what Jin is going through is saying that what the samurai as a class and as a system are a problem, because they are subject to rigid belief, which leads to rigid acts, which leads to predictable acts.
Right.
And there's a conversation about that in regards.
So that just sparked something of me, and it's going to lead me kind of along the same path, but then you just got to follow me on it. So it's going to be a little odd at first, but you'll understand. So I recently started rewatching Fiddler on the Roof.
Okay.
And one of their main themes throughout it, I was talking to my wife about it because she's never seen it. One of their main themes is how do we hold on to traditions but still try to keep up with the times? Because again, I don't know when's the last time you've seen Fiddle on the Roof, but one of the themes, Tevier, the protagonist, the father of 5 daughters, one of the themes that he has going on for him is his traditions and the traditions of, again, this takes place around like mid 1900s, around, the Soviet Union taking over Russia, early upon it. And one of the themes of it is, so like Bolshevikism, stuff like that.
The 19 teens, as it was.
Yeah, 19 teens. Good, better way to say it. And one of the themes is that Tevier is always getting challenged because he wants to be this loving father, but he also wants to be this devout Jewish man, devout to his traditions and, the Bible, essentially. And so through a lot of different cases, a lot of his traditional beliefs and traditions that they've upheld has to get challenged, and he has to be faced with this rock and a hard place. Do I keep true to the traditions that I've grown accustomed to and that my society's grown accustomed to, or do I give in because it's a new age and we have to move forward? So that just what it reminded me of when you're talking about Tsushima and Jin and his struggles.
Welcome to the Ludic Loungecast, folks, where we can equate Ghost of Tsushima with Fiddler on the Roof.
Da 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 da.
Weren't you in Fiddler on the Roof?
I was. I played Model, the very poor tailor who wanted to marry the first daughter of Tevier, the protagonist. I epically failed out. Not epically failed out. I tried out for the main role of Tevier and was decided that essentially I got barely beat out of it, and I was very sad. But I played my due, and then the year after that, I played Professor Harold Hill from Music Man.
And that's when I that much.
And that's when I peaked.
And it was never the same after that. Just never.
Nope.
But yeah, I think I can rap a little bit on Tsushima.
Tsushima was a really good game. Some people say that it was kind of lame.
I didn't mean literally. I don't have that kind of flow.
I would help you out. Gotta have the hustle. Gotta have the flow. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate that, but I'm also a white boy from Central California. I ain't got none of that.
But you got that Tsushima.
Boy. That was bad. Cut that out.
Bad.
You better cut that out.
Edit point. No, we do it live here at the Ludic Loungecast.
Yeah, pretty much. But I feel content with the game. I don't know if I'm going to go back to it anytime soon, but it's something that I feel like it's brought up a lot of interesting conversation, at least in like the theme of it. Even if it is a little bit formulaic, in my opinion, I think it's an impressive step forward for Asian representation in video games. I mean, this is from what I understand, it's primarily an all Asian cast, specifically an all Japanese cast, but that I'm not 100% sure on, so don't quote me on that.
There was some controversy around that because it's a Western studio making a Japanese game.
It is they are gaijin.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which is not. I read an article about that with the I think the head of the studio, and it's just like, you guys are, how are you not appropriating this? And he said they did the work. They hired the people that they needed to hire. They talked to the Japanese experts that they needed to talk to. They made sure that they are not shitting on an entire culture. And to also be fair, while the invasion of Tsushima by the Mongols was a historical event, what happens in this game is, and Sucker Punch fully commits to reminding people of this. This is not meant to be one-to-one historical. This is a fictional tale.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, right?
Yeah,
like, it's a video game, right? It's exactly. A Hollywood video game. Same with movies that try to be historical and stuff like that. Like, you can be historically accurate to a point, but at some point you also have to entertain.
Yeah, and I think that they find a balance of entertainment and historical accuracy. I do agree with the criticism that it is a little bit more in favor of authoritarianism, because that's what I think the most rigid of the samurai could be. You definitely get that, I think, early on in the game where you're still kind of towing that line between walking a samurai path and not walking a samurai path. So I think if I could give like a pull quote, while it is a little bit formulaic and at the end of the day predictable, it's a deep game. It's a fun game. It's an incredibly well constructed and well performed game. I think it's something that any PS4 owner would be proud to own and proud to have experienced at least once. And how I interpret it is probably going to be much different than how Anthony interprets it when he finally gets to it. And we'll have that conversation whenever we get there. And, that'll be a conversation for whomever plays that game and is like, hey, I want to talk about it. And, hey, we'd like you to come talk about it. So,
yes, absolutely. And this is the point where we should probably plug our various outlets because of the fact that we just mentioned that our loyal listeners should reach out to us. So while I sit here and filibuster, because, of course, I'm just a giant windbag, and that's what I do best. You could always reach us on Twitter, I should say. And by Twitter, I mean our various handles of the Ludic Lounge, reaching us at Ludic Lounge. Myself, Antonicus Maximus, at RojoLoco44. And, of course, John at just_John_0891. Or you can feel free to email us at theludiclounge@gmail.com. And this time we actually remembered to plug our stuff, John. I'm so proud of us.
I know. I'm just glad we've actually got a tag for the upcoming Columbo files that we don't have to do that anymore.
God, I know. It's beautiful.
I might just have to do a Peter Falk one for Loungecast, and that way we just append it and not have to worry about it.
Right? Just drag, boop. It would be so easy.
Well, I know what I'm doing after this recording.
God, seriously, that will fucking save us a lot of time. Speaking of saving us a lot of time, John's going to save us a lot of time by telling us about all of the comics he's been reading, so we don't have to read them.
Well, it's John's comic corner. And speaking of comic corner, we'll stay with video games a little bit, just because this last weekend, Anthony.
Yes.
Marvel's The Avengers had their beta.
Yes.
And I'm a little mixed. Now, granted, this is an incomplete game.
Yes.
And it's a very small. It is a very, very, very small sliver of what that game is looking to be like. I was reading some articles today saying that what you saw in the beta is probably not going to be the absolute final. This is a trial run. So the core concept of this game is an original Avengers story, which takes place after the Avengers have a massive failure and cause the mutation of an entire city.
So, a regular Tuesday for the Avengers.
Yeah, pretty much. So the beta opened with a lot of the same footage we've seen repeatedly throughout any of the demos. For the most part, it's the opening sequence, A-Day, which takes place in San Francisco, and the 5 squad Avengers: Thor, Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, and Black Widow.
Are they going to San Francisco?
They are in San Francisco.
Okay. They have flowers in their hair, though.
I mean, maybe Tony does.
Possibly.
There's
going to be like one person out there is going to understand that reference.
Yeah.
I think we made that joke, though, on the podcast. So if they're loyal listeners, they'll understand.
If you remember that episode where Anthony or I made that joke, please write in to us at theludiclounge@gmail.com, and we will send you your very own no prize. Do you want to know what the no prize is, Anthony?
I do want to know what the no prize is.
Okay, the no prize is an old Marvel thing back in the Stan Lee, Jack Kirby days, where the Merry Marvel Marching Society was what they called their readership, who would write letters in, and if a reader wrote into Marvel with like a continuity tick, like they noticed something that did not mesh with 2 issues, like say Hulk was in New Mexico for like a month, and the same Fantastic Four issue that came out at the same time said he's in New York, and they said, well, according to this issue, blah blah blah, Hulk was in New Mexico for this month, and they would say, congratulations, reader, you've won the famous Marvel No Prize. We will send it to you right away. And they would just mail them an empty envelope.
I'm surprised, like, Stan Lee just wasn't like, look, spider friends, fuck off.
I mean, maybe in his head, but there's Stan Lee the person and then Stan Lee the character. So this is like some bullshit Stan Lee the character would do.
I mean, that's some good ass high level 1960s trolling, though. I will give him that.
It's fucking brilliant because it's just like you're nitpicking on a bunch of imaginary stories. Just lighten up a little bit.
Yeah,
it's all in good fun.
Honestly, I want to bring that back, right? Because ultimately, comics are supposed to be fun. They're supposed to be joyous. They're supposed to be serious in some regard, but ultimately the main idea behind comic books is that this is going to always be someone's first experience in this world, in this realm, and that the reader should enjoy themselves.
Even if it is a heavy story, they should take some enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, to bring it back to the game,
the beta, which you mastered,
which I mastered.
So you're a master beta.
Oh, you fucker. You son of a bitch. I'm going to get you for that one later. So they're in San Francisco for the unveiling of this new helicarrier called the Chimera, which is powered by this crystal, which diehard Marvel fans would know as a Terrigen crystal.
Ooh.
And it ties into the Inhumans. Because,
of course.
For those Marvel fans and those who are fans of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is ending apparently. I haven't watched in like a couple of years, so news to me. The Inhumans are a group of mutated humans that aren't like the X-Men because the Inhumans were modified by aliens.
Yeah,
and
sounds like some 1960s, 70 bullshit.
Yeah, pretty much. So they, I believe the Kree of Captain Marvel fame modified these humans to have certain powers. There's like the Inhumans and the Deviants, and they fight the Deviants. I might be getting some things crossed because for whatever reason, Marvel has 3 different groups of modified humans: the mutants, the Eternals, and the Inhumans. So.
Yeah. John, I just trust you in all of these matters because that's some deep cut Marvel bullshit that I know.
Understand. And unfortunately, I'm getting into the weeds, but it's just like I'm just giving some trivia to people in case they want it. It confuses the hell out of me too. I kind of wish that they would streamline it, but they tried and it didn't work. So
yeah,
it's just like we're gonna have to live with it. And somehow someone will find a way to make it all mesh better. At least from my perspective. But the way the Inhumans get their powers is exposing themselves to a process called pterogenesis, which is turning these crystals into a mist that encases them in a cocoon. And then when the cocoon opens, they have powers. And it's either they have like physical powers where they can like manipulate fire or their body parts. Or they are physically mutated like X-Men's Beast. They go from human to being something that is not completely human
to
looking.
Inhuman.
Yeah, essentially. and what's stupid is that in game it's not they meet it's not that they meet a group of people that call themselves the Inhumans. After the whole conceit of the opening is that this Terrigen crystal powered helicarrier gets hijacked and it gets blown up.
Oh.
And Captain America is on it and presumed killed. And everybody blames the Avengers.
Of course.
It's your guys' fault. You guys, messed with something you didn't understand just because you wanted to look cool and you mutated and killed thousands.
Your scientists did something, but they never asked themselves, should they?
Thank you for your joke. Thank you. Jeff Goldblum's here, everybody. Jeff Goldblum is here. Will he play piano? I don't know. So you love me.
Yeah.
So the Avengers disband. You pick up the main action of the game 5 years later, and Kamala Khan, the new Miss Marvel, who is a Pakistani
is the niece of Shaka.
No.
Okay. Sorry. No. Not Shaka Khan?
No, that was bad, Anthony.
No.
Bad. That was bad.
Shaka Khan.
Shaka Khan.
Shaka Khan.
Shaka Khan.
Shaka Khan.
Okay, I will give you the Shaka Khans, but
thank you.
No relation. So Kamala is a New Jersey teenager who is essentially the new, kind of the Spider-Man of the 2010s. Similar concept where she's a teenager dealing with powers, but from a different perspective of white boy from Queens,
Right.
and different from Miles, who is kid from Brooklyn, who gets spider powers. So she and Miles are in the same kind of like they're in the same generation because I think they're similar in age, if not the same age. But Kamala is infected by Terrigenesis. She gets stretchy powers, so she can get bigger and can extend her body parts like Mr. Fantastic.
Nice.
She is the catalyst to kind of get the Avengers back together because she's a fangirl. She writes fan fiction. She doesn't believe the Avengers did this. She finds Bruce Banner, and she and Bruce go on this journey to go find everybody and figure out what's going on. AIM, Advanced Idea Mechanics, is looking to be the bad guy so far. They were who I primarily fought in the beta. General thought, the story is interesting, for the most part. I mean, it's typical 5 years later, we fucked up, very much in the same line of Endgame. Though I doubt that, they were developed at the same time. Sometimes ideas just, you put enough chimpanzees in a room together, eventually they'll write Shakespeare.
I always love that quote.
Yeah, I think I fucked it up by leaving out that typewriter, but I'll just chuck it in there.
That's all right.
So it sounds a lot like Endgame because there is a time jump after a severe fuck up by the Avengers, and people are missing, presumed dead, or so on and so forth. Gameplay wise, every single Avenger feels unique. It plays very similarly to a Batman Arkham game or the most recent Spider-Man game, where there is like a dodge counter system. You get a light punch, you get a heavy punch, and then it gets more specific depending on which hero you play. For the beta, you have access to Thor and Captain America in the initial level because they give you, I think, about 3 story levels total. You get the A-Day opening where you cycle through all 5 of those Avengers. Thor, Captain America, Iron Man, Black Widow, and Hulk. Well, for those who weren't paying attention,
right?
And that's my inner Stan Lee coming out again. It's like, I got to remind you of these people's names because you forgot. It's not like they're the most famous fucking characters in the world.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, you get to fight the Abomination as the Hulk. You get to play a level as Kamala. And then after that, the world kind of opens up, and you get to the way it works is that it's kind of an open world adventure thing, where you go to various regions and you can kind of fully traverse them. They're kind of, so far from what I saw at least, they're very open, jungle foresty type areas. For the most part, fully destructible. Every single Avenger has their own kind of method of transportation. So like when you sprint as the Hulk and then you start jumping, you can jump really far, like similar to that old PS2 game, Hulk Ultimate Destruction, which I fucking loved.
It was a great ass game.
That was a great ass game. I will say that based on this beta, and I think they're opening up the beta every weekend in August up to the launch in September. Everyone kind of felt a little samey, how they played. And they limited a lot of the things that you could have access to. Like they have like 3 different pages of like skill moves and all this shit. They got a lot going on, which gets me worried that maybe they're making it a little too complicated. Like, you have like 6 different currencies to upgrade shit or whatever. Or 3 different kinds of skill sets on 3 different pages, and it's just like, I wonder, because they harp on this a lot, that you can customize your team of Avengers to be suitable to your play style. So how I create my Avengers is not going to be the same as what you come up with, Anthony. And
Right.
when we're able to play with each other. So,
Yeah, we are.
Oh boy. I gave you that one for free.
Yeah, you did. That was a soft toss there.
That was a super soft toss, not intended, but welcome. So through multiplayer, like Anthony, say Anthony has a Captain America that he feels very comfortable with. I could take an Iron Man, and if Anthony decided to play Iron Man, the two of them are going to be completely different. And the same with my Captain America. I would have a different skin, which gives me different, and I'd have different equipment versus what you have, and you might have a completely different one with super duper equipment that I haven't gotten yet. Because
I'm telling you right now, my
game.
Captain America, if I pick up this game, my Captain America is going to be 1940s World War II Captain America, like right off the bat with the shield and everything. Because that is my favorite shield and my favorite version of Captain America.
That triangle shield.
Oh, hell yeah, that triangle. Hell yeah, that triangle shield.
I can fault. I won't fault you for it. It's good.
And my Captain America, not my Captain America, my Iron Man is going to be like the 1970s Iron Man, like when he first got released in Marvel Comics.
Funny enough, one of the skins I was able to unlock in this beta was a more modern update of that look.
Ooh.
And it looked pretty swanky. I'll find a photo of it for you later.
I mean, they got to have Iron Patriot too as a skin, right? Like that's got to be.
Oh yeah. And one of the big things that gets me excited about this game is that they have plans. The developers, Crystal Dynamics, who, if I recall correctly, are behind the most recent batch of Tomb Raider games. And Square Enix is the distributor. So Crystal Dynamics develops, Square Enix distributes, and Marvel is just like, yay, money.
Yeah, pretty much.
Their plan is very much in line of what Destiny has done in Destiny 2, where it is now kind of free to play, and they will just add stuff, and like the really, really, really big stuff, is going to be you pay to play. So they're going to add new characters for free, no additional cost. So they're going to update the roster and equipment stuff on the regular, at no additional cost. You just pay the cost of the game. They're also letting you, if you bought a PS4 copy, upgrade to a PS5 copy for free.
Yeah, but there's probably going to be like 1,000 loopholes you got to jump through.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. The problem is that there's not enough information on that because there's nothing really concrete.
Yeah.
On the PS5 release, at least.
Look, all I'm saying is that if I don't get Scarlet Spider-Man, if Spider-Man's a playable character in this game, if I don't get Scarlet Spider-Man, good. If I don't get my Scarlet Spider outfit, my skin form, fuck off. They can just fuck off this entire game.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Scarlet Spider will be an option, because it looks like they're going to go deep with this game. The main thought I could describe this game as is, you remember Ultimate Alliance, right?
Yes.
Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
Of course.
I feel like this game is like the ultimate version of what you would think that game was as a kid,
That makes sense. Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me, because it's a 4-hero squad. You don't get to switch on the fly like you do in Ultimate Alliance, unfortunately, which that kind of irks me a little bit because I don't get to develop all the heroes at the same time. Like the levels of the characters don't increase at the same rate, which is a little bit frustrating. But I don't want to judge the game based off of a beta, which is still clearly in progress, because there was a lot of instances where it was rough. It didn't really, like, there was a lot of glitches here and there with like enemies. Facial movements didn't match sometimes. But like, I think overall I'm left a little colder on that game, but I'm still excited to see what the final polished product is going to be.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And then I hope that there's just a Wolverine Colossus pinball special attack in there somewhere.
I mean, they're going to have to add the X-Men at some point. I know they are.
Yeah.
It's just like it's a question of whether or not they make some characters exclusive or not, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Spider-Man, for instance, is going to be
Sony exclusive. Yeah.
It is a PlayStation exclusive. So if you want to get your Spider-Man on, you either have to get the PS4 or the PS5 version.
Yeah, which makes sense because, Spider-Man was the PS4 exclusive game. So that makes sense to me.
And Sony owns a lot, holds the copyrights to a lot of Spider-Man right now and has for like 20 years at this point. Yeah. I think the only thing that they don't have complete control over is the cartoons, because I think Marvel had for the longest time a little bit more free reign when it came to the cartoons, but everything else they have to be like, well, we have to work with Sony on this, and they get to lead the ball. But if the beta is open again, I will report back on any kind of improvements that I see. One thing I did a lot was the Avengers now have their own danger room, which is called the harm room, and harm is an acronym for something that I can't remember off the top of my head, but it is essentially their danger room.
That is super smart of them to do.
Yeah, and I imagine that's something that's probably going to work its way back into the comic books to some extent. I don't know what kind of extent, but I imagine these things are just bleeding into each other left and right.
Oh, for sure.
That's speaking as a layman who doesn't have any connection outside of being a fan.
Yet.
The pipe dreams, my friend. Pipe dreams.
Well, we have 11 episodes now for them to see your bona fides, if you will.
My bona fides. My bona fides are better than your fides.
Hey!
That was rough as hell, but I'm going to roll with it. Speaking of pipe dreams, I really hope that Daredevil ends up in this Avengers beta, and that is a ham-fisted transition to talk about some comics that I read that you don't have to.
Transition. Oh, see,
I really want to know what people think when we go into the voices and they're just like, did these two have strokes?
They might. Now, if I was a smart editor-in-chief, what I would do is cut up our segments and do, like, when we use, like, transitions like you just did, just paste that shit in there, and that would transition us instead of one lengthy cut into our different various segments.
I mean, we could still do that.
No, it's too late, John. We've already gotten, this is our 11th episode? It's too late.
Yeah. Maybe one day.
But Daredevil,
that's right. Daredevil is one of my personal favorites. I fell in love with the character when I was kind of diving deep into comics again in high school post Watchmen, because Anthony's in the similar boat as me, where the Zack Snyder Watchmen adaptation led to the Watchmen graphic novel, which led to a whole host of other things, most notably Frank Miller's work. In particular, the Batman work with Dark Knight Returns in year one. But one of the things that I read kind of in that stream of stuff that I was consuming post Watchmen was Daredevil Born Again. And Born Again is written by Frank Miller, drawn by his Batman Year One collaborator, David Mazzucchelli. And it is about Daredevil's fall. Kingpin finds out who Daredevil is and decides, I'm going to destroy his fucking life. So he destroys his fucking life. And it's about how Daredevil gets back up again to some kind of sanity. It's also where former Law Secretary Karen Page of Nelson and Murdoch, who has a crush on Matt Murdock, who was in a relationship with Matt Murdock, sells his secret identity to the Kingpin for heroin.
Yeah.
While she is a porn star. So it is that part has not aged particularly well.
Nope. She sounds like she should have dated Mike Murdoch instead.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I think Mike Murdoch would have sold her for a bindle of blow too. So
that's what I'm saying. They would have been a great pair.
I mean,
Sure. Call back. It was a callback. It was a callback to Mike Murdoch, our first episode.
Mike Murdoch is here for some cocaine. Hey, I'm Mike. Where's my kite? I want to blow, and I need some blow.
Are we making Mike Murdoch like
Andrew Dice Clay?
Yeah, Andrew Dice Clay.
Fuck yeah, I am.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, this is Mike Murdoch working
the Dice Man.
My cock.
Jesus, say that again. Just for
this is Mike Murdoch looking to put my cock into you
on camera. Because that's a subplot of a Daredevil comic book.
Oh God.
Yeah, that didn't age well. There's some things that do work, even though it is Karen is a drugged out former porn star who sells her ex-boyfriend's secret identity to his worst enemy. There is a lot of heartfelt moments with the two of them and him trying to help her get back to his center while he's also trying to get back to his center. Even though they're both on a lower rung, they still end up being happy. But one of my blind spots in Daredevil was the creative team that didn't immediately follow Miller and Mazzucchelli on Born Again, because that's a hard enough job as is. But it's the team of Ann Nesenti and John Romita Jr. To my knowledge, I think Ann Nesenti is the only female writer on Daredevil. But she introduced a character called Typhoid Mary. And I'm in the midst of kind of I've read part of her run. There's more parts of it that I haven't gotten to yet, just because of they haven't been released in trade, or I just haven't gotten to it yet. But the Typhoid Mary story is brought up a lot because it is as close to Miller as Nesenti kind of gets. Because the premise, and you can kind of jump into it, just after reading Born Again, is that Matt and Karen have started up a free law clinic because they still want to help people, but Matt is disbarred because of Kingpin's antics in Born Again. So he's doing what he can. They're making the most of life. It's not the best, but they're happy. They're in a good place, and Kingpin finds out and is just, I'm not happy, and I need him to be broken. So he hires an assassin named Typhoid Mary, who is tasked to make Matt Murdock fall in love with her, and then you break his heart and then break him. But you're not supposed to kill him. And Typhoid Mary showed up in the Iron Fist TV show. And I was hoping that, before the Marvel Netflix imploded, that, there would be a little bit more crossover, and, we'd get a lengthier Daredevil run where that character and Charlie Cox would get to interact. But unfortunately, that's, looking less likely as time goes by. But Typhoid Mary is a pyrokinetic and a telekinetic, and she also has, I believe, dissociative identity disorder. So she has like two distinct personalities. One is Mary, who is very meek, and then the other is Typhoid, who is the sex pot murderer. And they both love Matt Murdock, but in different ways. One loves Daredevil, the other one loves Matt Murdock.
Of course.
And then shit ensues.
Of course.
I mentioned to Anthony that reading this it brought up some interesting questions about Matt Murdock as a person, because he kind of, he's with Karen. He says, based off of everything that they went through, pre Frank Miller and post Frank Miller and during Frank Miller, you would think that it would endear them to each other as a very, very strong couple. It would take a lot to get those two broken. Matt Murdock almost jumps down Mary's throat like white on rice.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's, in part it's her kind of messing with his head. They're, psychic powers and all that shit. She does the same shit to the Kingpin. So it's a weird, it's not weird. It's actually fascinating because it equates Matt Murdock and the Kingpin as the same type of person, just on different ends of the stick.
Yeah. Right.
Which, Anthony, you can agree or disagree. I think the Netflix show essentially did that argument where they are similar to each other, but
there's enough of a difference there. Like the small differences that they do have is actually monumentous in the fact where you try to compare one to the other, essentially.
Yeah. And I think the crux of the Daredevil story in some regards is, at least, after Frank Miller left his stamp on the character, is, what side of that line is he balancing on? And is he ever going to fall off it?
Yeah.
He being, Daredevil. But it's just like, I wanted to talk to Anthony about whether or not what Matt does is a shitty thing. I mean, to be fair, if he was not being psychically manipulated.
Exactly. It's kind of hard to say that he's being a shitty dude if he's being like psychic powers are like almost a mind control kind of a thing. It's kind of hard to make the argument that he's being shitty because at a certain point he's just like, he knows that he's harboring like two conflicting feelings and knows what line he should line on, but then chooses, I'm gonna go with Mary over here over Karen. Yeah. Like, that's completely fucked up. Like, I would agree that he is completely fucked up to that regard. Unless, like I said, because I haven't read the story, but if it's truly like psychic powers to the point of almost mind control, yeah, dude, he's getting his mind controlled. And if she were to get killed, he'd be like, oh, yeah, okay, that's right. I was getting controlled. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to kind of talk about it because it's, it's suggestion. It's not necessarily control, too. So it's just like at a certain point.
Well, you can make the argument that he is shitty because he should be a man of stronger morals given what he stands for, what he believes or perceives that he stands for.
As a Catholic.
Yeah, well, as a Catholic and as just a crime fighter, a person that's supposed to be above being the small peons of evil, essentially.
Agreed. But, I mean, the other thing is that Matt Murdock is a whore.
Yeah, he's turning into his brother, man.
I mean, fucking Mike, he does anything for, just a tug and a plug,
Yeah, even drives a convertible and everything, man.
How does he do it? I don't know how he does it.
Literally, how did Matt do that?
How does he do it?
It's just that panel of Mike with the sunglasses driving up in convertible. I've always just wondered, like, man, how did Matt actually pull that off? Because he's blind and, echoing like a bat and shit. But, dude, you're driving a fucking convertible on busy streets of New York, man. Like,
that's got to be like sensory overload to the T, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But, I mean, I'm still kind of midway through all of this. Tsushima and the Avengers kind of took up my reading time. But, I mean, Daredevil, honestly, I think if you wanted to dive into comics, I think there's like a whole line. Daredevil, I think, has had the most consistent set of creative teams ever. I mean, there's like one period in like the 90s, early 90s, where it was probably bad, and that was like all of Marvel for the time. Like, yeah. But I mean, there's a point where Daredevil literally saves Marvel from bankruptcy. Because there was a point in like 98 where they hand over creative control to two guys named Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti. They create Marvel Knights, and they essentially have free reign to work on a number of characters, and Daredevil's one of them. I think Kevin Smith calls up Joe Quesada, and he and Quesada and Kevin Smith end up doing this 8-issue run that arguably starts off a trend for Marvel, and it gets them out of the black, out of the red. It leads to a whole run by, it sets up Brian Michael Bendis's career in comics.
Yeah.
Without Bendis doing Daredevil, you don't get Ultimate Spider-Man, and you don't get what we're the version of Spider-Man we've gotten between Spider-Verse and the Amazing Spider-Man movies, take them as you will, and Tom Holland's Spider-Man. You don't get that. You don't get the Netflix show without Bendis and Brubaker and all that stuff. So like, honestly, like I'm pretty sure, with like one exception, I have almost all of Daredevil from that starting from that Kevin Smith period on.
Good man.
That's how consistent the character has been in the last, I think maybe in the last 2 decades.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I would say
and it all, every time somebody new comes on it, it's they are pushed because of what came before them. It's you can't escape Frank Miller because it's Frank Miller. And that he lingers for better or for worse. Frank's work now is not a little bit, a lot of it. Excuse me, a lot of it hit and miss, but the legacy still stands.
Yeah, and it has.
And you still have to deal with it.
Because, I mean, the shit he did, like, say, even dating back to the 80s, Dark Knight Returns, to his Daredevil run, like, shit's iconic. Like, you have to give him his props on that. But I think he just rests on his laurels too much. And
yeah, I think lately.
Yeah. So, like I said, to each their own when it comes to that man, but you do have to give him his props when it comes to just some of the epic stories he put out in the universe.
No, I agree. But that's about all I've got on my end this week. Anthony, you got anything you'd like to add?
Not much, honestly. I've just been doing the same kind of shit. I'm still in MLB The Show. My Hawaii Huskies, the custom team I made, is still going undefeated. I think as of this podcast recording, I'm 114-0, so my season is almost over. And the way I crafted it is I'm taking a lot of no-name players, and I am trying to make this run of it, make this go of it, and it's been very difficult. A lot of times it's been painful, a lot of extra inning games. But like, I think my highest rated person is like a relief pitcher who I can only use for like 1 inning before he gets super tired out because his stamina sucks. Yeah.
That's fucked.
Yeah, I don't know why I fucked myself so much, but it's been interesting. I've been having a lot of fun with it. But outside of playing MLB The Show 20, I haven't really been playing much. Doing much, rather. I've been doing a lot of research for the Columbo files, getting my thoughts in order before we jump into it. And I've been editing the podcast, honestly. Like, that's been my quarantining.
Yeah. You've been doing so your share of Umbrella Academy too, because
God, thanks for reminding me. Yeah,
Brandon mentioned it on the Ludic Roundtable. So I knew you're jumping into that. So talk to us about that.
I completely just forgot about even bringing it up because we haven't talked. I thought we already mentioned it, but that was just Brandon talking about it. Yeah. So the second season of Umbrella Academy, it's really, really good. I enjoyed it a hell of a lot more than the first season. And the soundtrack to the second season, because it takes, I won't give everything away, but it just so happens that they all end up in the 1960s because of a time jump to save them out of the 2019 apocalypse. And they end up back in the 60s, like before Kennedy gets popped. And the soundtrack draws a lot of like 60 songs from different eras. I mean, it goes from Sam and Dave to Aretha Franklin to, like I said, towards the end, it plays the Kiss disco track, "I Was Made for Loving You" in a fight.
Oh my god!
Like, it's just,
oh my god, that is amazing.
Yeah, no, I was trying not to spoil that, but just to tell you, just to tease that. It was an amazing, like, 5 minutes of a fight to that song in the background. Like, this soundtrack is as if I were given free reign which is one of the things, like if I were to ever get into cinema, this is one of the jobs I would want. I would want to just put songs over specific scenes to amplify, to bring it to a new level, because honestly, the songs that they pick is maybe not like, oh, I wouldn't have thought this song for this particular moment. Like, who have ever in their right mind thought of Kiss, I Was Made for Loving You in a fight scene? Like, it's not been happening before, man.
I mean, like the only thing I can compare it to, and this is the second time we're going to have to mention Zack Snyder in this fucking episode, which is too many for my liking, but I'm your boogeyman.
Yeah, exactly.
That say what you will about that movie, that scene fucking rocks.
That scene was epic. But again, that you kind of get that feeling. You're like, holy shit, this music works with this scene that I never thought would work. And they do it throughout the entire fucking season.
Ooh, yeah, I like that.
Oh god, I'm trying to think of another great example, but I can't think. There's one where like they're sending a monkey into space because it's still like early spacecraft, right? That space race and everything like that.
Oh boy.
Oh god, it's just and sometimes it's just covers of specific songs. It's not exactly the original artist, but the covers just work so fucking well too.
Because they can't afford the real ones.
Oh yeah, like that's totally the reasoning behind it. But the covers just work and just hit. I think there's a cover of a Bowie song on there, but I can't remember which Bowie song it was. But it was some gal who was singing it, and it brought a lot of soul into it. Like holy shit, man! Like if you haven't seen the second season, John, you need to jump into that shit right this minute.
We're working on it. We were about like 3 episodes away from the end of season 1, and then got kind of carried off onto something else.
That's one thing that they don't do very well is because I watched like the season 1 recap that they have on Netflix, which was like less than a minute long, and it didn't really go into a lot of the things that went in the first season, and I was kind of confused by in the second season. But overall, yeah. But it's not like it breaks the show for me kind of stuff I'm confused on. It's one
right.
It was just one of those like, oh, okay, that's right. And it was just like, oh, wait, why is this person doing this? What's their motivation behind that? And, you know, it would be my wife saying like, oh, that's because he did X and Y. And you're like, oh, okay, that's right. Yeah, and it kind of scratches a little bit at that fogginess.
Yeah, we're kind of in the midst of that with season 1, where it's just like there's certain things that happen, and then it's like, oh wait, it's because of X, Y, and Z. That's why they're doing this.
Yeah, it's
that kind of stuff.
A lot of that, but even on its own, like say, like for me, for example, I watched the first season so damn long ago that jumping in the second season, I knew you still remember a lot of the characters and what they bring, and all the actors are just so damn charming. And whoever plays, I don't know the actor's name, but whoever plays number 5, the time shifting older man stuck in the young kid's body, that dude is the shit. Like that young man, I totally believe that there's like a 60 or 70-year-old man stuck in this, you know, stuck in his body from age 13. Like, oh my god.
He I think 5 and Klaus honestly steal that show.
Klaus. And what happens to Klaus, I don't want to spoil it, but when Klaus gets trapped back in time, gets shifted back in time, what he grows into is fucking hilarious. Like the happenstance behind what he does, because they all get dropped in different points in the 1960s. So Klaus would got thrown back to 1961. Another character got thrown back 1962, et cetera, et cetera. So when he gets trapped and like the journey he goes through, it's fantastic. And I don't want to spoil it for you, man, because it's just like, yeah, that makes sense for Klaus. It would make sense that he started this thing.
Oh boy, he starts a cult, doesn't he?
Oh, does he ever, man?
I fucking knew it. He had cult leader written all over his fucking face.
Oh god, and the cult, like some of the sayings he has in his cult, like some of his prophecies come from like TLC songs from like the 90s and shit like that. It's amazing. It's the best.
You've got to be kidding me.
No, it's the best. Like at one point he's like, yeah, just don't go chasing waterfalls. That's like, holy shit.
That is amazing. Speaking of him, if I may make a recommendation, I think you watched this show, but that actor, I believe his name is Robert Sheehan. If I'm wrong, whatever. But he was in this British show called Misfits.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, it was a show that a bunch of our friends recommended when we were like in the the throes of college.
Yeah, that's probably why it's super familiar.
Yeah, it's about these like juvenile delinquents who get exposed to something and it gives them all superpowers. So it's a bunch of juvie kids in Britain who get superpowers, and he's in like the first season, and only that first season. And then he goes away, and then he gets replaced by somebody who's just as manic and impressive. But for fans of Doom Patrol, for fans of the Umbrella Academy, Misfits would be up your alley for at least a couple seasons. That show goes off the rails, I think, in the last season. But there's a pretty I think like the first like 2 or 3 seasons tell like one big story, and you can kind of jump off after that if you feel so inclined. But that is a recommendation corner.
Absolutely. And the end of season 2 leaves it wide open for season 3. It's just one of those things. It's like, oh shit, I don't know when this 3rd season's gonna be made because of COVID and all that.
Yeah. I mean, like it seemed like it was such a long time between the first 2 seasons, and I looked at it. It's like, oh no, it's just a year.
Yeah,
which feels fucking crazy to me.
Yeah, right.
It's just like if I thought it was 2.
It felt like 2, but just like and the reason why it feels like 2, and as I stumble across it myself, it's just the quality gets so much better. The filming gets so much better. Again, the soundtrack gets so much better. So you're like, oh yeah, Netflix gave it money.
They got money. Now they can do things.
Pretty much. And that's why it feels like, oh yeah, there must be like 2, maybe even 3 years between it. Like, nope. It's just they got more funding.
Yeah, and that's Netflix for you. I don't know how they do it, but they keep doing it.
Oh God, seriously.
I'd hate to see their bank accounts. Or would I?
Oh. I would love to tap into like a 16th of a fraction of what they're making, and I'd probably live like a king the rest of my life.
Just like the budget of one episode of
of
a shitty anime.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't know, man. Maybe Netflix executives, if you're listening to this, John and I have a great samurai/Star Wars crossover that we can probably take the Star Wars out because that's Disney Plus now, but we can reformat it to make a great show. So just hit us up.
And Disney, if you want a great ass show, come call us. We got an idea.
And DC, if you're listening, John has all the bona fides to become your next president of Hollywood and all things.
And I'll hire back the good people you just fired.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is that going to get me the job? Probably not.
Probably not. They're gonna be like, no, man, we have to cut costs.
And you insulted us. Fuck you.
Oh God, I know, right? Because Snyder will be like, nah, those guys did like 2 or 3 episodes where they shat on me.
It was a worthy shitting, I will say that much.
It really was.
And we'll do it again when the Snyder cut comes out.
Oh, fuck you. No. Fuck off.
We got to. We got to.
I'm not doing
it.
I'm not doing it. I'm telling you right now, I'm not doing it.
I'm telling you right now, we are doing it.
You can have a round table by yourself on it. How about that?
Yeah, that's not how this show works.
It'll be called John's Dunce Corner.
I mean, I will feel like a dunce for having, forced myself through 4 hours of that, or however it turns out.
Fuck that noise, man. Fuck all of that.
I mean, I want to see it just because of morbid curiosity, but I don't know if it's worth it.
No, John, I'm telling you right now, it's not worth it. I'm telling you, our loyal listeners, it's not worth it.
Stay away from Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's like opening Pandora's box.
Stay so far away.
What if that is Pandora's box?
That's what I was thinking, because they're opening fucking boxes and shit in that movie. Like, it probably is. It's probably just some fucked up, stupid ass thing that he had to. Anyway, I'm not gonna get into that again. We went.
Trump becomes Darkseid.
Oh God.
It's unbelievable. I'm going to get the anti-life equation, and it's going to be the most beautiful thing you've ever seen.
It's going to be huge. Huge.
It's going to be the hugest anti-life equation you've ever seen in your life.
That's a pretty decent Trump.
Can we cut? I feel like we should cut that out because I feel tainted.
Oh, God. And speaking of things that are tainted, we now come to the point in time where we have to say goodbye to you, our loyal listeners. I've talked about everything I wanted to talk about.
Adieu. We're bringing it back to Bing Crosby. Adieu to you and you and you. Gonna get me a nice bag of Florida oranges. Gonna get me some
understand that reference. I mean, I understand the reference, but nobody else understands that reference, John.
Well, Anthony, if I do say so myself, they're a bunch of some bitches. I'm going to beat them with a nice little bag of Florida oranges. It
I
doesn't
will
bruise,
hit you.
doesn't leave a mark.
I will hit you with my ring hand.
His leg is touching up against mine. I'm Gregory Peck. What am I doing here? My God, how did I end up on the internet?
We're making musty-ass 1950s, 60s references. That's how we ended up here.
Yeah, that we get from fucking Family Guy because we were deprived of entertainment when we were teens.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that was like all that would run ad fucking nauseum.
Yeah, boy.
Did it ever.
Jesus.
But The Simpsons has been running longer and it doesn't feel like it's worn out its welcome. That fucking...
I don't know. I haven't watched The Simpsons since I was probably 13.
I mean,
early 20s. But a lot of people said like these last few seasons are like somebody needs to put down The Simpsons.
Now, they're going for that record.
Yeah,
that's it.
I know.
They're just going for that record. They just want it. They want to cement that legacy of being the longest fucking thing on the face of the fucking earth. And then they're going to ride off into that sunset or ride off into that donut, whichever one it is. Probably both. It's Sunset Donut.
Now, John, speaking
That's the title of this episode.
Probably Sunset Donut. I like it. Now, speaking of running off in the sunset, John, let us into that beautiful sunset that only you can.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Ludic Loungecast. I have been your wonderful co-host, John Flores. He has been Antonicus, Gluteus, Maximus, Anthony to his friends. Thank you for lounging with us. Good night, everybody.
Bye!
Greetings, true believers. Stan Lee here on behalf of the Ludic Loungecast. You've been listening to another brand new episode. For more, follow the boys at the Ludic Lounge on Twitter. Antonicus' handle is at RojoLoco44, and John's is at just_John_0891. For more, please feel free to email us at theludiclounge@gmail.com. Excelsior, true believers!